What's going on, guys? LordKing here again, back with another UFC review show. As you see, UFC 211. Overall, this was an incredibly good show, I thought. I enjoyed it a hell of a lot. The card was absolutely stacked, as I discussed in my preview, and the events were actually very good. Unfortunately, we actually lost Henry Cejudo versus Sergio Pettis before. Henry Cejudo apparently had some hand injury that's been troubling him for a few weeks, and apparently he wanted to get some cortisone shots or whatever it was, but it would have actually hurt more if he got them, so he didn't get those. Going into the actual attendance, 17,834, total gate 2.6 million. Dana White basically said this was completely sold out and it was an absolutely great event. Going into it from basically the beginning, the prelims, as you can see the results, we had a submission, decision. I wasn't too fond of these. The actual this Barzola versus Benitez was relatively interesting. The last round was quite fun to watch as well. On to the actual prelims. James Vick defeating Marco Polo Reyes. This was a very, very good TKO. He landed a great shot, and James Vick, looking like he is moving up, he cut quite a good promo at the end, basically saying, please give me some exposure now. I think I deserve this exposure, so hopefully he'll get it. I mean, he is this 6'3" lightweight, so we don't really see that too often. He is a person that can give anyone trouble with his height and things in the stand-up department, so it's interesting to see. Next up, we had Chase Sherman defeating Rashad Coulter, now with a KO elbow. This actually won fight of the night. This was absolutely unbelievable. It was really quite a crazy fight. Sherman was landing these ridiculous leg kicks and basically put Rashad Coulter, he couldn't really stand up. But then what Coulter was doing, he was kind of going backwards and going onto the fence and bouncing off the fence and throwing some crazy bombs. Basically almost a reverse rope-a-dope like Muhammad Ali did, where he'd be using the fence and just coming back and throwing these crazy shots. And they were both landing incredible shots, and eventually Chase Sherman hit a crazy elbow and put Rashad Coulter down in this quite horrible hurdle sort of quad stretch position. It was awful, but it was a very good fight, deserved a fight of the night. Jason Knight defeating Chas Skelly. I thought this could have been fight of the night before the card actually started. This was lined up to be incredibly back and forward, and it pretty much was. They were both going for it quite a lot in terms of the ground game. It was a back and forward sort of jiu-jitsu battle, a lot of scrambles, and they were trading on the stand-up department as well. Then, as you can see, round 3 TKO punches. He landed a very good, I believe it was a right hand, Jason Knight to Chas Skelly, and he pretty much put him down, and then it was basically over there. Skelly went into the turtle position, and Jason Knight was landing a hell of a lot of shots. I feel this should have been stopped a lot earlier. I did not like the reffing in this situation, where he took a hell of a long time to actually stop the fight, and it annoyed me a little bit, but what can you do? On to the controversial one of the night. There's always one controversial one. Eddie Alvarez versus Dustin Poirier. This was making out to be an incredibly good fight. The first round was a little bit... The second round was the main one. They both came out relatively well. Eddie Alvarez doing what he does, put some pressure, and so was Dustin Poirier as well. Poirier was looking pretty good in the stand-up department as well. Second round, Poirier, he rocks Eddie Alvarez with some incredibly good shots, and it's landing some good things. And Eddie Alvarez, being pretty much the dog he is, the dog fighter, he takes it, he manages to recover. Now this, I think what this does is this shows how hard Conor McGregor hits. He didn't put Eddie Alvarez away with the one shot, but these shots accumulated a hell of a lot, and he was doing some serious damage on Eddie Alvarez when he landed them. So it almost gives us a perspective as to how strong Conor McGregor's left hand is. But Poirier was landing some very, very good shots, and then it kind of came back with it onto the fence, and Eddie Alvarez then tagged Dustin Poirier. So it flipped around. Eddie Alvarez then landed the crazy shots. They then clinched up against the fence, and Eddie Alvarez landed a knee to the head whilst Dustin Poirier's hand was down. Now, the ruling in Dallas, Texas at the time is that they use the old rules, old UFC rules, which means having one hand down, fingertips, whatever it is down, as well as your feet, obviously, means you are a grounded opponent. So in the new rules, Dustin Poirier would not have been grounded, and Eddie Alvarez could knee him or kick him in the face. But under the old rules, which Dallas is still using, for some reason some of the states still use them, he was a grounded opponent, so they were illegal knees. Now Herb Dean, the referee, thought that the first knee was legal to the head, which it was illegal, but he thought it was legal, so unfortunately Herb Dean missed that. But it was the second one where Eddie Alvarez landed it, and it pretty much cut Poirier open. I think it cut him open and did a little fair bit of damage, to be honest. And the fight had to be stopped in a no contest. Now, they were illegal knees, but I think Herb Dean was relatively correct in saying that it's his job to almost notice this a lot more and make Eddie Alvarez more aware that he is grounded, where Eddie Alvarez wasn't really too sure. Now, being in the actual situation itself, it is incredibly hard to know if someone is grounded, especially when Eddie Alvarez is rocked. So for anyone that is saying, well, whoever sees this and says that Eddie Alvarez did it intentionally or whatnot, if you are rocked and in that situation, it is absolutely... it's incredibly hard to, in that sort of situation, to be able to establish whether someone is grounded or not. He's kind of just throwing the punches. They both said sorry, and Dustin Poirier did this incredible thing at the end I absolutely loved, where he basically said, do not boo this man for doing what he did. We had a good fight, and this guy is a former champion. It was a very, very respectful moment, and I'm assuming they're going to run it back. They're going to do that another time. Main card, Branch defeated Christoph Jotko. This could have gone either way. This was a... I don't want to use the word boring, but it was a relatively slowish sort of fight. I don't think either fighter wanted it to be like that, but it was a grappling sort of grinding fight for 3 rounds decision. Frankie Edgar versus Yair Rodriguez. Now, this was the one which a lot of people thought could happen. Well, it was one of two ways. The first way was Yair Rodriguez lands some crazy kick and puts Frankie Edgar out. The second way was Frankie Edgar grinds him on the ground and takes him down and lands some incredible ground and pound, possibly a submission. The latter is what happened. Frankie Edgar took him down with relative ease and put on some incredible ground and pound. This cut that was on Yair Rodriguez's head, on his face, was one of the... well, his eye was completely shut. That's how it stopped. TKO, doctor stoppage. The fight was stopped with just because his eye was completely closed. It was unbelievable. It was hard to see, to be honest. But it basically showed us why Frankie Edgar is in that very, very top tier of fighter. He is, well, I think he may be number 2. It's Conor McGregor, Jose Aldo, then I believe Frankie Edgar, then like Chad Mendes Max Holloway, sorry, then Frankie Edgar. So Frankie Edgar's in that top 2, 3 maybe. It's unbelievable when he kind of put Yair Rodriguez into perspective. So Yair Rodriguez could be a future champion, but not at this point. But on the other side of that, Frankie Edgar is one of probably the worst matchup for someone like Yair Rodriguez. Likewise, I would argue Frankie Edgar is the worst matchup in that featherweight division for someone like Conor McGregor as well. As we all saw, Conor McGregor versus Chad Mendes, that was an incredibly tough fight for McGregor, leading up to the part where Mendes gassed out and McGregor started landing a lot more on the feet. Mendes took him down with absolute ease and did some very, very good ground and pound, which a lot of people think Frankie Edgar could do as well, but we may never see that. But very, very good when Frankie Edgar puts his name back into the hat, as he always was, but he could be getting the next title shot after Holloway versus Aldo. Damian Maia defeating Jorge Masvidal. This is split decision. I thought Damian Maia won this with a unanimous decision. I thought it should have been unanimous. I don't see how Masvidal won. I know he was landing some good kicks in the stand-up, but he didn't really do too much. Damian Maia probably dominated. Well, not necessarily dominated, but he was in an incredibly dominant position, mainly on his back, for the best maybe 10 minutes out of the 15-minute fight. So that pretty much says to me that he won it. He was going for submission attempts. Jorge Masvidal, incredible submission defense. I did not know he had this sort of jiu-jitsu game about him. Damian Maia saying that it was one of the best sort of jiu-jitsu performances he's ever faced in the octagon. I did not know he had this about him, and he showed his incredible resilience to actually defend against Damian Maia, maybe the best jiu-jitsu practitioner, just submitting him basically. I thought the second it would go to the ground, he'd be submitted, but he did very well. The fight was pretty much, Masvidal landed some good things standing up. Damian Maia tried to take him down with some pretty poor attempts, to be honest, but eventually got him to the ground and pretty much tried to wrap him up each time. Basically took his back, sometimes in half guard, sometimes full mount. It was pretty much just Maia on the ground and Masvidal on standing up, but I think Maia won this relatively clearly, to be honest. Co-main event, Joanna Jędrzejczyk defeating Jessica Andrade. This woman, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, is an assassin. She absolutely dissected Jessica Andrade. It was the first round started. Andrade came forward very, very aggressively and landed a very, very good shot to Joanna. Joanna showed her chin. She took the punch. She got a massive mouse sort of welt on her forehead where the bump came up where she got hit. But she took it and absolutely obliterated Jessica Andrade in the stand-up department. It was, as you can see, the scorecards 50-45, 50-44, so one was a 10-8 round and a 50-45. She won every single round. it was absolutely unbelievable to see. She just showed how damn good she is standing up. I mean, as I mentioned in the preview, she is a multiple-time Muay Thai world champion, so she is absolutely no joke. Maybe some of the best striking in the UFC, not even the UFC women's division. She maybe has the best pound-for-pound striking in the whole of the UFC amongst men as well. She is absolutely unbelievable in the stand-up department, and also fair play to Jessica Andrade, who came forward every single time and just took everything that was thrown at her. It was a good fight to see. Again, 5 rounds of pure dominance by Joanna. I think she could be one of the best champions ever. With that sort of performance, I'm starting to sway with her more than Ronda, where Ronda Rousey just obliterated everyone in the same way. No matter what you think of Ronda, up now, what's happened in the past previous fight, she was, again, probably the most dominant female champion ever. I think Joanna is getting close to that sort of level. She's going to probably fight Rose Namajunas next, which I don't know how that's going to go for Rose, but we'll see. Main event, Stipe Miocic versus Junior Dos Santos. This is one we were all waiting for, where Junior Dos Santos actually beat Miocic in the previous one, and it was like a 5-round fight back and forward. It was an incredible fight, so we were hoping for a similar sort of thing. Stipe showing his calmness. Now this guy he walks out to the octagon completely almost dumb-faced. He looks so unaware with the situation, where he's just completely off with the fairies. He's so calm, cool and collected. I mean, a lot of people have said the reason for it is because he is a firefighter back in Cleveland. I think he still actually is a firefighter, so he's very, very used to these incredibly high intensity situations like that. So these things are nothing. And people have said backstage, Tyron Woodley said backstage, he's always mucking around, talking to everyone, watching the fights on the TV. He's incredibly relaxed. And Junior Dos Santos came out looking very fierce-faced, as he always does, and it was quite odd, to be honest. They came in, and Miocic put the pressure on straight away, pushing Dos Santos back to the cage. The one thing that I had noticed was every time Miocic was pushing Dos Santos back to the back of the cage, Dos Santos would exit the sort of being in the pocket range where the punches could be thrown. He was exiting that range with his hands down and his chin kind of up, which was noticed by some of the analysts as well. And it was kind of leading up to a point where he could actually get clipped. So it basically happened, to be honest. Before that, Dos Santos landed some incredibly vicious leg kicks. I mean, seriously, when you think of these guys who weigh 245 pounds, whatever they weigh, so these are incredibly big guys. If it was myself taking one of these leg kicks, it would probably break my leg. I don't think I'd be able to walk for weeks on end, just one of those leg kicks. So it was visible. Dos Santos' leg kicks they hurt Miocic. He was limping on them. So I think it clicked in Miocic's head that he may have to go for it relatively soonish, because otherwise he may not be able to walk and just get picked apart in the later rounds. So he basically went for it quite well. As he probably noticed Junior Dos Santos was exiting the pocket with his head up a little bit and his hands down. So he basically threw some good shots, and threw a very good shot, and Junior Dos Santos' head basically bounced off the cage as well. He went down, and Miocic landed some very, very good clean punches whilst he was down in the turtle position. Again, Herb Dean, he stopped this a little bit late, I think. I think it could have been stopped a little bit earlier. And got his first round finish over Junior Dos Santos. The rematch he won in incredible fashion. Now, Miocic has just equalled the record. Well, the heavyweight title in the UFC has never been defended more than twice, which is absolutely crazy to think. So Miocic has now defended it twice. So if he defends it one more time, the title, he could be considered one of the best heavyweights ever in the UFC, if not in the world, along with the likes of Fade or Cain Velasquez, those sort of people. So hopefully he can defend it one more time. That pretty much wraps up the actual card. In post-fight press conference, nothing major happened. Junior Dos Santos got a little bit emotional, cried a little bit, and he basically said he wants to come back. It was quite hard. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, she basically cried as well, saying it was quite an emotional thing when she found out her coach was leaving. But other than that, everything was relatively normal. Incredibly good card. The next one we have coming up is UFC Stockholm, I believe, which is Gustafsson versus Glover Teixeira. So I shall do a preview for that as well. As you can see, performance of the night, Stipe Miocic and Jason Knight. Fight of the night, Chase Sherman versus Rashad Coulter. So that basically wraps up this one, guys. If you have anything else that you've seen that I did not notice, please write it down below. But as overall, it was an incredibly good event, so please try and watch it if you can. If you're in the UK, it is on BT Sport again repeatedly for a few days, so do try and watch that. As always, guys, I've been LordKing. I hope you enjoyed this. Please like, share and subscribe, and tune in next time for the next one coming up later this month. Thank you as always, guys. Goodbye.